Hey guys, this is a Chapter 6 intro video just to kind of show you what are we going to be doing in Chapter 6 in algebra. And our topic is systems of equations. The whole chapter is focused on this topic. And there's kind of like two pieces to it that we're going to be studying. We're going to be studying the algebra side of it, like the how do I solve a system? Just what are the steps? What do I do? And then we're going to be studying the application side of it. When do I use this math? When do I need to solve a system of equations? When would it be useful to me? So we're kind of working on both ends of the spectrum here, and we're going to kind of just intro the chapter with a little video here so you kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. So math has its own language, just like English and Russian and Spanish and French, the language of words. Math has its own words and its own language. It's kind of the language of numbers. And a lot of times when we read what we call like a story problem in math, we have to know how to take that story problem and kind of translate it into a numbers problem and just focus on the numbers. And so that's going to be a huge portion of our chapter, and I kind of want to get into like what does that look like. So I'm going to talk about a mathematical sentence. So mathematical sentence. And just to give you like a really simple example, let's say we kind of polled the audience of our class and tried to figure out how many boys and how many girls are in the class. And to kind of keep it simple, I'm going to write an equation to represent that. So I'm going to say the boys plus the girls in our class equals, and let's say we have about 28 students. So I'm going to say 28. That's a mathematical sentence. It's an equation, b plus g equals 28, but it is a sentence. Breaking that math sentence down, it breaks into words like this. B is the number of boys in our class. So the number of boys, and the plus sign means and. And G stands for the number of girls in our class. The number of girls. And this is translating into our English sentence. So our mathematical sentence is B plus G equals 28. Our English sentence is the number of boys and the number of girls is 28 in our class. Is 28. Is our equal sign. And 28 is 28. So here's our sentence. The number of boys and the number of girls is 28. That's our English sentence. Here's our mathematical sentence. B plus G equals 28. And so we're going to be doing all these different like story problems and, like I said, application problems where you have to read it in English and kind of translate that into some sort of a mathematical sentence. And it's really important when you're doing these word problems. I'm just going to write that down, word problems. That if you're writing a mathematical equation or a sentence, you also need to define the variables, because B and G could be anything. It could be blue plus green. You know, I don't know it's boys and girls unless somebody tells me the story or gives me some more information. So with word problems, it's very, very important that you always define your variables. Define your variables. And defining variables kind of looks like this. If I decide to use B and G, for instance, then you use what's called a let statement, where you say something like let B equal or let G equal, and define it for the reader. Let B equal number of boys. Let G equal number of girls. Define your variables. So let B equal the number of boys, let G equal the number of girls. And I didn't have to use the letters B and G. I could have just said X and Y. Let X equal the number of boys. Let Y equal the number of girls. So the letter doesn't really matter as long as it's written down and defined for the reader. So here's my defined variables. Let B equal the number of boys. Let G equal number of girls. And I think that's kind of a key thing. You might put a big star by that, is when you're doing these problems, define your variables. Also within the word problems is you're going to see a lot of math vocabulary, especially in this chapter. There's going to be a lot of math vocabulary. So some math words that you're going to want to look out for. And there's a huge list of these words we could make, but I'm just going to write down a couple of the main ones that you're going to see in the next few days. And that's things like the words less than, twice, more than. If I see these words, if I see less than, twice, or more than, I know in my mind kind of what I need to do. When I see less than, I know I'm thinking, oh, it's some sort of a subtraction situation, or I'm going to need subtraction. If I see twice, we all know that means to multiply by 2. Multiply by 2. If I see more than, then I know I'm thinking about adding. So an addition problem. Addition. So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to read some story problems, and today, like when you go and you kind of practice this in the classroom, you're really just going to practice reading the story and defining the variables, not necessarily solving. We're not, like on the boy and girl question up here, we didn't solve any equation. I didn't put a line down the middle and do any kind of solving. I'm just writing the mathematical sentence and doing my defining what's b equal and what's g equal. And then pretty soon after I kind of get the hang of that down with you guys, then we'll move on to, okay, now let's do the solving. So first we got to be able to write the equation and define the variables, and then we'll move ahead with how do we solve the equation. And it takes usually more information than like what was given in this example. But that's kind of what our chapter is all about. So there's our chapter 6 intro. Hopefully you wrote all that down and you're going to go back to the classroom and practice a little bit, and then we'll work on it more. All right, bye.